Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Eva. I am a writing coach, a book editor, and a writer, and I've recently put myself on a challenge to complete my novel in the next 3 months, meaning to complete it by the end of August. We are experiencing a heat wave in New York City. It is extremely hot, so please ignore any shine and poofy hair that you might see in this video. I am on a deadline and I do have a chapter to work on today, but I wanted to do a quick sit down video and share some of the things that I learned since I first started writing my book. Every writer's journey is very individual and different, and we all run into different roadblocks, and we all have perhaps different misconceptions and ideas about what it means to be a writer. The writing process is such a solo, kind of a lonely process. By pulling back the curtain and giving each other a glimpse into our own writing processes can be an amazing way to encourage one another and to help us through any of those periods of doubt and imposter syndrome. Here are the 5 things that I learned since I started writing my book. The book I plan to write is not necessarily the book that I will ultimately write. On this channel, I talk a lot about the importance of outlines. I think that outlines are an amazing tool, because just like you would not take a lengthy journey across the continent, the United States, wherever you're planning to travel, without some sort of preparation and tools, perhaps a Google Maps or a navigation system, because that would make your journey more challenging than it needs to be. I think that the same concept can be applied to writing a book. When you have a map, i.e. an outline, it is so much easier to know where you're going and what steps you will take to get there. When it comes to outlines, I practice what I preach. I've built an outline for every project that I've ever worked on. However, one thing I learned since completing the first draft of my young adult urban fantasy is that the story is going to change. The outline cannot stop the story from changing, and that it's not necessarily a bad thing. For example, when it comes to my own book, one of the most essential secondary characters, who was originally a teenage girl, her story is much better executed if she is actually a grown woman, because there are just certain aspects and certain nuances I think somebody older can carry out with much more impact. So even though I put so much time and thought into building this teenage girl character, that ended up completely changing. Even though it took me even more time to rebuild that character, the story is now better for it. Whether you are a plotter, meaning you have an outline, or you're a pantser and you're just kind of writing as the ideas come to you, I think that it's completely fine to have an idea of what the story is going to be like and then completely transform it down the line. Lesson number 2, I will not love writing every day. Many of us don't have books that are already published. Many of us don't have agents. Many of us don't even have a completed manuscript. So that being said, and I don't want to generalize, so feel free to correct me in the comments below, but I feel like most of us are writing simply because we love to write. We have ideas that excite us. We've created worlds and people that we want to expand upon and potentially, hopefully, maybe one day see being enjoyed by readers out there. So I first started my writing process thinking that I was going to sit down to write every single day, or as often as I was going to sit down to write, and love every single minute of every single writing session. And I'm here to be completely transparent and tell you that that was not and still is not the case. I adore my story idea. I love just the process of having a seed in my head, writing it out and seeing it come together on the page. It is the most fun thing. But do I feel this exhilarated and happy every single time I sit down to write? No, and that is quite the opposite from what I was originally envisioning feeling, especially because I spend so much time trying to find my book idea. So I just automatically assumed that once it came to me, I would enjoy every moment of the writing process. Most days I'm having a blast, but then sometimes I don't write because I love it. I write because I know that I have to write. For example, if I'm on a deadline like I am right now, and I know that I need to complete a certain number of chapters by a certain time. So if some days you grab your notebook or you open up your laptop and you feel like you should be super thrilled to write and you just don't feel it, but you feel like you still need to write. And that's a completely justifiable and normal feeling to have. And I think that many of us probably feel that way. I used to feel guilty about it because I used to think, well, so many writers out there are looking for the story idea and they haven't found it, sort of found me, so I should be enjoying each and every day. However, over time, I made peace with the fact that sometimes we can love something so dearly and still not enjoy doing it every single day. So if you've ever felt like that, I feel like that too. I think as you consistently continue to write and you still find the joy in the story, I think that that's really nothing to feel bad about. Lesson number 3. Being a writer does not necessarily begin and end with completing a manuscript. That is definitely an essential part of being a writer because you do want to write and have a result or a product of said writing. However, as I got deeper into my publishing studies in college, as I became more active in the writing community on Instagram and YouTube, and also dabbled in self-publishing, which did not turn out to be very successful for me personally, I learned that there are so many other intricate parts of becoming an author, especially an author who wants to build an audience. For example, you finish your novel and then you realize, oh, the structure could be a bit better. The pacing maybe is a little off, and I'm kind of having a hard time dealing with hyphens and semicolons and maybe spelling, and maybe my sentences just don't sound as punchy and effective as I want them to sound. All of a sudden, you realize I now have to take a whole detour and find a book editor. I think that this should not be the case, and it really does not say much about the quality of the writing, but now there is a lot of importance placed on the author's social media and the size of their following. So then you think, oh, I have to take another detour and I have to spend time making reels and posting Instagram stories, maybe even creating a YouTube channel and market my book because I want to get it in front of as many readers as possible. Speaking of agents, the querying process is a part-time job in and of itself. You have to do research into how to write a query letter. You have to research the literary agencies, know which agents are open to submissions and which ones are not, what is the best time to contact them, and so on and so forth. When I was first starting to write my book, I honestly did not even consider any of those things. I just knew that I wanted to write the best story possible and that eventually I would love to see it on a shelf in an indie bookstore, at a Barnes & Noble, or whatever. I never really gave all of those different detours much thought. Letting all of those other things into your creative bubble when you haven't maybe even finished a draft can be a bit overwhelming, but in a sense, it's also a very good sort of a kick and something that is going to push you and push me definitely, because I now have things to look forward to. I'm kind of excited to start the querying process, and I know that there's probably going to be quite a lot of rejection in my future, and that's okay. And I definitely plan to share the entire experience with all of you. So again, being a writer, or I guess more specifically wanting to be a published author, does not necessarily begin and end with you just writing the book. There's so many aspects and steps, I guess, that eventually you will need to take if you do want to get that book published. But now that I'm learning more about it, I feel that that's something to embrace rather than to be afraid of. Lesson number 4. Writing a book is a huge time investment. So that's something that I guess I should have expected, because if writing a book took like 1 to 2 weeks max, I think that many more people would be published authors by now. But writing a book is a very time-consuming activity, and I love it. I would not change it for anything. It's my hobby, it's my passion. It is something that I thoroughly enjoy. Again, this is very individual because some writers can finish a draft in a month and a half, and then some take 5 years, 10 years, or however long it needs to take you coming up with the idea, the potentially outlining, the actual sitting down to write, the self-editing that then potentially comes after. Then if you're working with an editor, you will get the comments and the analysis back, and then you will also go back and make changes as needed. It can take a very long time, and it will also take up a lot of your time that you perhaps before you started writing, you would spend watching TV, hanging out with friends, going out, spending time doing a different hobby like painting. I am a homebody, so I love staying home, which kind of works out because I do prefer to write at home. It's my cozy place, but I do love to go on hikes. I love to go to the movies. I used to love to draw. I make ASMR videos. Now that I am consistently writing, I had to really consolidate all of those activities, and some I don't get to do as much anymore. So something that I learned and made peace with since I started to write my book is that it is a very demanding and time-consuming process, and I will have to make sacrifices. Obviously, you don't have to completely just not do things, not leave the house and not go see a single movie, not make YouTube content if that's something that you do, or not paint or not play video games. But if you want to take writing seriously, sometimes some sacrifices do need to be made, and I guess that's not really something that I thought about. I thought that I could just sneak in writing time, once in a while, and the book would just kind of come together. And that's not really the case. But I think that if you use all of the tools that you have at your disposal, really put your head down, focus, and manage your time properly, the book is going to come together, and the sense of accomplishment that you will feel will negate all of those times that you felt like maybe you missed out on something. And last but not least, lesson number 5 is that the writing process is not always going to be aesthetically pleasing. So maybe this is a misconception that I personally internalized and truly believed for the longest time. Before I started to write my book, I had this image of me sitting at my desk with a cup of tea next to me, some cookies, some candy, me sitting in my comfy chair with a cardigan, and I'm just typing and the words just come, and it's beautiful and it's amazing and it's so aesthetic. If that is how your writing sessions go, then I am very impressed and maybe even a little bit jealous, but that is not me. Some days I'm just on the couch in my sweats and my hair is in a bun, and I'm kind of like a raccoon with just a whole bunch of post-its and notebooks and papers and my laptop. It is just a huge mess, and nothing about it is even remotely aesthetic. And then some days I'm not even writing on the couch or at my desk. I'm writing on my notes app when I'm on the subway. Interestingly enough, I actually get some of my best ideas when I'm in the shower, so then I have to do my things really, really fast and get out of there so that I can grab a post-it and write those ideas down. You can get a notepad that's meant specifically for the shower. It's waterproof. If you've ever used it, please let me know, because the most random things just come to me in the shower, like pieces of dialogue, entire book ideas, and then by the time I wash my hair, some of them just disappear and kind of float down the drain along with the shampoo suds. I think that a waterproof notepad might just be the next purchase that I make. That being said, writing a book is not always perfect or aesthetically pleasing, and I don't think that it needs to be. I don't think it makes writing any easier. I don't think it affects the quality of the writing, and I don't think that it makes your ideas come to you any easier necessarily. I think that we should embrace all of the different writing routines that we have, whether it is super aesthetic and super organized, or it's kind of raccoon-like me. I think as long as you continue to write and the book gets written, at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. So if you've been struggling with doubts or imposter syndrome, or maybe if you felt like you are writing your book in the wrong way, I hope that this video showed you that there is no one shape and size to writing a book, that every one of us, including myself, can have these ideas and misconceptions about what being a writer is or should look like, but that in the process, you really do hone your own path, and that is one of the most beautiful things about this creative journey. Keep writing. I believe in you. I cannot wait to hear how your writing has been going in the comments down below. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.